It is absolutely ridiculous that I make these incredibly personal videos, and that I publish them out on YouTube. Although, even though I seem to pick up a few views here and there, I I don't really pay attention to that. So I'm sorry, and if anybody ever comments, thanks. So let's see. I have the keto thing is going well, the weight is going well, and all that. But I have come to realize, as I talked a little bit about in my last video, by the way, I don't know if you can make channels PG-13. I'm just gonna have to make mine PG-13, because I either curse or I talk about sex sometimes. I mean, it happens. So clearly it's a PG-13 channel. Anyway, so I talked a little bit about some of the things I'm doing to try to work on the inside stuff that that I know keeps me from keeping my weight off and has gotten my weight up high. In the past, I have a little bit been a member of a compulsive overeaters group, like Overeaters Anonymous, and I would not say that I was fully into that program. A lot of it wasn't for me. I found that, some of the things resonated with me, but often the meetings didn't give me what I needed. I didn't feel any kind of a sobriety sense. I think some of the concepts have helped me out, because, like, for example, I can recognize the kind of foods or the kind of patterns in my eating that suggest that I am not having a sober time with my food. But I'm not sure that the concrete nature of 12 steps and the pattern of meetings and that whole thing has really been helpful. Now, it could be that I just fail at them, but I don't think that they've been too... I think therapy itself and talking about some of the things in 12-step programs has helped, but maybe not necessarily the 12-step programs. But the interesting thing, or maybe it's not that interesting, maybe it's very rudimentary, is that now that I have kind of an extended period of eating right and making correct choices, even somewhat without much effort on my part, I find that the interesting thing is that that I already feel healthier and stronger in a lot of ways, and I find myself walking around the apartment like, I'm already there. Meanwhile, I'm not already there. I've lost almost 40 pounds altogether. It's a long way to go, and but I think the fact that I already am starting to feel healthier physically makes the mental and emotional things come up for me, and it makes me realize that I think some of the things that have sent me back on the pattern of eating again, I usually hit like kind of a normalish weight, and then I do an about face and I rush back into fathood. And I think that's because I do not have good coping skills. What am I trying to cope with? There are probably a lot of things, but I started realizing, mostly thinking about conversations I've had with a friend about his relationships, I guess his relationships that have ended, which were marriages, and I was thinking about my own life, which has not led me anywhere close to marriage. Never. And that has always been fine with me. And for the most part, it is still fine with me. I think it's still fine with me. It doesn't have to be, but none of my relationships have gotten anywhere close to that. And I was thinking about what a gift that was, that, especially as, my parents are aging, and I think, the people in my life now are probably the only people who will know my parents. That if I get together with somebody, years down the road, that person might get to meet my father. But will probably not get to meet my mother. And she's pretty amazing. I have two mothers, actually. They're pretty amazing. And I was thinking about what a gift that would be to somebody, to invite them into my family and to get to meet them. Those women and my father, who I'm not close with, but who is a pretty nice, he's a pretty neat guy to know. And I was thinking about what a gift that would be to give somebody when you ask them or you agree to marry them. You're not just like agreeing to a contract or to love each other, which is how I've always thought about it, but I'm an ugly crier. I don't care. But you are inviting them into your family to be a part of it. And I've never been given that gift. Nobody has ever invited me to be part of their family. I mean, other than platonically speaking, and I'm grateful for my extended family of friends that I have. But I've never gotten to that point. So anyway, I started thinking about these sorts of things, and I guess because when I start thinking about an actual relationship, that brings up anxiety issues for me. And usually, though, that I think that those emotions are usually handled with eating. Eating things usually covered in frosting, or things from a wood-fired oven, like pizza, or, some such thing. So I have been thinking about some of the patterns of my life. What is it that I haven't been in a serious long-term relationship, and of those relationships I've been in, what's messed up? And I'm not talking about why didn't it lead to marriage or all that kind of thing, but what is it, why haven't I had that kind of normal human relationship? Because I know a lot about love. The people who can give the best advice, don't know it, right? That's what, non-parents are always giving to parents, because they've got all the ideas, right? So anyway, I did start thinking about some of these issues, and that led me to thinking, I was actually watching the show Stalker, and that introduced me to the, I forget what the official Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous or something like that, and that's how I found out about the group. So then I looked it up to see if it was a real thing. Hey, it's a real thing. And I started reading about some of it, and I had always thought about like sex addiction just very different from what I was seeing there. So I was reading a bit about it, and then I ordered the book. It's anonymous, so you can't tell what I'm reading, but of course I suspect anybody who has this book knows what it is if you're reading it. So, and I was thinking about going to meetings. There's one tomorrow at 11 that I might go to, or one Tuesday night. I'm not sure. I might go to a meeting. I've been reading a little closer in the book, and just to see a bit more about it, because I know food is my issue, but it's clearly going to be a longer video, but nobody has to watch, so why should I feel bad? I mean, I know food is my issue, and I didn't even take to Overeaters Anonymous, so I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if this is my cup of tea. I might still check it out. There's apparently also like a Sex Addicts Anonymous and then a Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, and I don't really know the difference, and I don't even know whether I belong in either one, so I'm clearly only going to be able to go to open meetings where folks who don't know if they're members of the group or not are allowed to go. I was looking through, I was talking to somebody. It turns out that this person is familiar with the organization, was telling me that the front story matter didn't really help much, and I had found the same thing. But I thought, well, maybe I'll focus on the steps part of it. So, of course, you start with step 1, and be quiet, Lulu. Talking about sex. Not really. So I say a lot, and I gotta work on that. So you start with step 1, which is, of course, I mean, if you're familiar at all with 12-step programs, we admitted we were powerless over sex and love addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. And, of course, when you're talking about addiction, it's hard to know whether, and you're evaluating yourself, it's hard to know if you don't evaluate yourself as, say, unmanageable, or something about it being unmanageable. Are you just in denial? So it's hard to adequately assess, which is one of the reasons I might have to go to a group or talk to my therapist about it, that sort of thing. And in the end, the label itself doesn't matter, because whether or not I would consider myself somebody who should be in SLAA or not doesn't matter so much as the fact that I've identified some patterns of behavior that are unhealthy in my life, and that I work on those and maybe utilize elements of the 12 steps. Like, some of this really is directly about sex. Like going out and finding lots of partners, or masturbating a whole hell of a lot, or that kind of thing. I did read an article in Men's Health a number of years ago that said you should have like 200 orgasms a year, and that added years to your life or something. And I tried to attain that, but that, that's like once every other day, maybe a little more than that. I don't really consider that kind of out of control, and I probably get close, but I'm not obsessed by it or anything. So that itself doesn't really seem like a thing. I've had a one-night stand. I was actually kind of proud of it, though. I mean, because that isn't really my kind of thing, and I had one, and I felt pretty good about it. So, that, I don't know if that's a problem or not. And I've had friends with benefits, which the last person in my life like that was probably one of my healthier relationships. It was the most honest, and we knew what we were about, and we really were friends with benefits, and I was pretty good. But I've had one of the last serious relationships I had was drama filled, and he was so wrong for me. But something about that drama attracted me, and so that is something that I'm sort of keeping in mind. And I've been in relationships where the idea of somebody rescuing me, kind of from myself, was a strong attraction, and that's not a healthy relationship. I think the part that really resonates with me is, honestly, they call it, and oddly enough, they call it like anorexia of experience, which is that I have gone years without dating people or having sex. I mean, various times in my life. Heck, now, currently, it's been about at least a year and a half since I was in any kind of a sexual relationship, and that includes like a one-time thing. So that is something I get very comfortable with, not engaging in things. And at first, when I thought about going to one of these meetings or really delving into like the first step or any of the steps, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to give up sex or casual sex or friends with benefits kind of sex, or, I focused on sex. But for me, it's really not. And thankfully, I was having this conversation with the person today, and I admitted so at least I'm admitting things. I admitted that I was struggling with the idea of delving into this book or attending one of these meetings, and we were IMing, so I had some quiet time to sort of really think about, why am I scared about this, and what is it that what is unmanageable about my sex or my love issues? And I realized that it's obviously not masturbating or casual sex or a lot of sex or that kind of thing. I do have some issues with kind of all or nothing with some relationships. I don't know, but on the other hand, I've been really aware of that, and I've been working on that, so that has been less of an issue in the last several years. It's probably something I still need to be aware of, but it's not as extreme as it used to be. I've been in therapy for that. But the thing that I am not able to do, that I do need to work on, is, and I sort of figured it out today, because the same thing I would say about love, or sex love, and food are the exact same things. And let me see if I can figure out the exact sentence that I thought of earlier today, because as soon as I said it, I thought it was true. Let's start with food. That I use food to replace communicating truth and vulnerability with someone who that communication matters. I don't know what the exact sentence was, but it was something like that. That I use food to avoid communicating in an authentic, vulnerable manner with the people who matter. How about that? I use sex and love, definitely sex, and I'm talking about, like, I use sex to avoid communicating in an authentic, vulnerable manner with the people who matter. And what I mean by that is, number one, I can find myself physically unable to talk, which at 18 minutes on the clock, I bet you can't believe, but that is because you are a camera. You are a camera. I know you feel like a person, but you are a camera. And this is why I do these videos, because I cannot communicate vulnerability and authentic experience with people who matter when something is on the line. Like if I fear that what I say next could make them mad, could make them not like me, not respect me, otherwise leave, I'm afraid. I find myself literally incapable of uttering the words. Like that joke, there's a commercial and it's based on all kinds of other things where people are like, I can't even, and they're like, I can't even talk right now, and then they say lots of crap. I literally can't even utter the thing that matters to a person that matters. I find myself literally incapable of putting that out there unless I'm mad or I've already given up on the relationship. Like, the worst case scenario, this person, we are ending our relationship and it is over, so I've got nothing to lose. And then I can put it out there. And you would think I would learn that never makes anybody run. But I still if they matter in that moment, and I don't think I'm breaking up with them or it's already broken, that's the only time I can communicate. If they matter right then, like they matter hanging on to them, I can't speak. And I will sometimes, I don't think I have purposely, I mean, those moments are emotional when I cannot speak. So I can't say that I've ever intentionally, like, distracted with sex or love or something like that, because I haven't. But I would say overall, I have sexual relationships with people, or I do not allow myself to truly love them in an authentic, vulnerable, sharing, experiential kind of a way. And so in some ways, I refuse to allow myself to love, because that could mean it could be taken away from me, or I could lose it. But I will have sex in order to avoid some of those. I would not say that I have sex more than I would want to, but I definitely will use sex as a filler in a relationship that is otherwise void of authentic communication. I think that is safe to acknowledge. I don't know that I have intentionally done that, and I don't think it has been overwhelming to the point of being, what was that word again? Unmanageable. But maybe that is because I've been so controlling about not being authentic and vulnerable that I don't feel like it's unmanageable, because maybe I feel like I've been managing it. But I clearly, well, I don't know about clearly, but things are coming up for me as the physical barrier of my weight drops away, even though there's still so much of it to go, thank goodness, because I have a lot of work to do. Anyway, that's where I'm at. This video is really too long, but because of the book, because I'm trying to work through things related to my weight, it's important to me to make these videos, even if I cry ugly, even if they don't lead to some grand conclusion. I don't know what maybe there isn't a conclusion. I don't know that I am a sex and love addict, but I do know that there are issues that this book brings up that maybe are not exactly my issue, but clearly I have some issues around them. And examining this book, examining a group, examining myself, that is all part of this process of losing weight. It's losing inner weight. I'm losing physical weight, but I have a lot of inner weight to lose. I'm rambling. I say too much, and I ramble. And I'm working on myself.